Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Always Right with Jeff and Steven. This is a new podcast that we are starting because we felt that our opinions were just too important to keep them to ourselves.
And our
That and our
wives get
wives
tired of
got
trying to
tired
talk
of
to us.
listening to us. Yes. So today, this will be a weekly podcast. We are going to talk about some of the biggest stories that we noticed from the week, catch you up, get you up to speed. And today we will be discussing the fallout of Boston Children's Hospital and all of their transing the kids nonsense, the ongoing but seemingly resolved issues with the drinking water in Jackson, Mississippi, our local state, and that insane speech given by our dear president. When was that? Thursday? I don't remember when that was. We're going to be watching a clip of the what I call the Dark Biden speech, and reacting to that. All that and more today on Always Right. I'm Jeff. He's Steven. Steven, what's going on, bud?
Another day living in the dream.
Yep. This big metropolis where we live.
That's right. Let's go get straight into this news story about Boston Children's Hospital and the backlash over all that's happened there.
Yeah, so this has been ongoing for the better part of a month. In early August, Boston Children's Hospital put out a video of them promoting it, actually describing what a hysterectomy was. This is a children's hospital describing what a hysterectomy is.
Why? Why? I mean, outside of extremely rare medical situations, why does a children's hospital have to describe what a hysterectomy is?
Because apparently, according to Boston Children's Hospital's website, until very recently, they offered quote unquote gender affirming care to children as young as 15, potentially younger. They have since changed this information on their website to say that surgery consultations can only take place for someone at least 17, and actual surgeries can only take place for someone who is 18 or older. But that is a change that has been made after the very popular Twitter and TikTok account Libs of TikTok brought to light all of these insane positions.
Libs of TikTok is the greatest Twitter to follow because they just let people speak for themselves. They don't offer commentary on it. The lady who runs it was recently doxxed, and so everybody knows who she is now. But they don't offer commentary on what's happening. They literally just take posts that other people share and reshare them. That's all they're doing.
Right. And she got banned from Twitter for this. No reason was actually given, but it was in response to this story that she broke. In addition, what did she do? She called Boston Children's Hospital to try arrange quote unquote gender affirming care for her.
Yeah, and got on the phone with somebody. It wasn't like a spokesman for the hospital. It was somebody working the desk. But and that's the argument people have been making. Well, it wasn't a spokesman for the hospital. It was somebody that just worked there that told her all this. Well, if somebody that worked there told the lady this, then that means they were offering this for minors.
Right.
And
so they were.
It's not that I'm not sympathetic to what these children are dealing with. I'm very sympathetic to what they're dealing with, and I'm extremely concerned.
All right, so it looks like Steven may be having some technical issues, but I agree. It's insane what they're doing. But Libs of TikTok was banned from Twitter for this. She was recently reinstated to her Twitter account. It was a 7-day ban. But in addition to this, as is often the case when Libs of TikTok will expose someone or something that's going on that's pretty crazy. Looks like Steven's back with us. There were apparently alleged threats of violence made against the hospital and its staff, including a bomb threat that was supposedly called in. So
it's been hard to track that down.
Yeah,
not going to say
that's what I was getting at.
It didn't happen. It's been hard to track that down.
To the extent that they've even several private individuals, Seth Dillon, CEO of Babylon Bee, has put out a reward for information leading to the arrest of whoever called in the bomb threat. The police just came out and said that, okay, well, it was a false alarm, which I'm sort of sympathetic to because, and Stephen, you know this, you experienced this as well. I think anybody who goes to a public school experiences this maybe pretty regularly, in that bomb threats get called in, and I never really heard who did them. I never, but I mean, it would delay us getting dropped off from the bus, or we'd all have to evacuate the building. I don't understand the purpose they serve, because I don't remember ever going home because of one. But
and even when I was teaching public school, we had bomb threats, and it was very chaotic because the staff was away on our lunch break and they wouldn't let us back into the school. So we were like, what do we do now?
And so, like, I understand that when stuff like that happens, sometimes the police are just like, somebody called in, it's done. We didn't find it. We looked for a bomb. I imagine they looked for a bomb at the hospital. But you just throw up your hands at that point and say, okay, false alarm. There's no bomb here.
But all of that coming and being justification for shutting down this Twitter account that, again, seemingly didn't do anything but let people speak in their own words.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but we know that's not why TikTok got shut down. She even put, she had her lawyer put together a letter to Twitter's legal department saying that, if this extends, in fact, if this results in a permanent ban, which had been talked about, then she was going to sue them for breach of contract. Which, I mean, yeah, they did not give a reason why she was banned. It was supposedly to do with this. But when people with the resources to do so have got to start fighting back against this sort of thing with legal action.
Yes.
So I'm glad she did it.
And I don't understand the whole, well, somebody said something I don't like, and then something happened to the people that they were talking about, therefore they're responsible for it. That's not the case, and you can pick either political side, doesn't matter. Obviously, our podcast is called Always Right, so that tells you what side we fall on. But I didn't blame the Bernie Sanders supporter who went to the congressional baseball game and tried to shoot a Republican congressman. Like, it's one crazy person of all the people that support him. And so you can't blame this Twitter user for letting people speak in their own words and then violence happening or getting threatened on those people. They just let you speak in their own words. They just amplified what you previously said. They didn't change the message or anything. They were amplifying what you wanted.
Yeah, it's a game. Like, I mean, and the game will continue this way. We can call out all the hypocrisy we want, and it is hypocrisy. But they're just playing to win, and doesn't matter how dirty they want to play. They're going to, like that. The Bernie Sanders supporter that shot up a bunch of congressmen on the Republican side. They're never going to equate him with people calling in a bomb, not even actual violence, the threat, just the threat of violence towards Boston Children's Hospital. They will still promote that as worse, even though no one got hurt, and obviously don't call in bomb threats.
That's bad. Don't call in bomb threats. That's bad.
Right. But the theory I saw floating around on Twitter, and I don't know that it's true, but it's believable. I think it's believable that it could have gone either way. But how likely is it that someone on the left called in this bomb threat for the express purpose to make the people who pointed to Boston Children's Hospital and talked about all this gender affirming care crap, to make them look like victims? Because that's that's currency in today's society. Victimhood is currency. And yeah, it is ultimate. The conversation we need to be having is the conversation they're actively trying to silence. The conversation needs to be about what Boston Children's Hospital is doing to children.
Yeah, what are they doing to children? What are they filling the heads of the nation's youth with? And is it helpful? That's right. Is it helpful? Again, like I said, I'm very sympathetic to the young men and women who are going through this gender crisis that is happening in our country right now. Is cutting off their breast and cutting off their genitals and changing their genitals, is that the answer? And no one wants to have that conversation.
Right.
And I think because when you look at the studies, pre or post surgery doesn't help.
Post surgery is worse. Makes you so. All available data suggests that post-op transgendered individuals are more depressed. They suffer more anxiety. They commit suicide at a higher rate. This is what the data suggests. And that we got to the point where we're having to argue from a surgery standpoint is a problem, because this needs to start at the gender dysphoria point, and the lack thereof.
These kids need treatment.
Psychological treatment, not surgical treatment.
Yes, they need help. They need treatment. They need psychological treatment. For some reason, this argument has changed from body dysphoria, which was a thing, and gender dysphoria being similar to, those two things are completely separate. So the question is, what do you do in the meantime? I was a pretty principled conservative when it came to this. Well, government intervention is bad, but I agree with what Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis is doing. No, you're not going to chop up minors in this state. Not going to happen.
Yeah, and
and the hope and prayer is that because of that, they will be looking at alternative forms of medicine, which would actually be the correct forms of medication, is to help these children, help them psychologically with what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean, we haven't talked about this publicly before, obviously, since it's our first episode, but I mean, there's a deeper problem at root here. This is a social contagion spreading more rapidly than back when we were growing up. Fads were fashion trends, and
children are susceptible to fads. They always have been. I remember reading this magazine article, and starting to date ourselves here. I remember reading this magazine article when we were in high school about this high school in Colorado where the fad was to be pregnant at prom, and girls tried to line up when they got pregnant so that they would be 8 or 9 months on prom day. Like, that is a social contagion. Like, that was something that was happening within that ecosphere before mass media would have been able to promote that point of view. It's the same thing. Kids are susceptible to fads. They're susceptible to contagions. They don't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. Like, this is going to happen. We have to protect our children. That has got to happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're watching and if you're listening, be on the lookout for this stuff. We're in Mississippi. A lot of people that watch us or listen to us probably in Mississippi or around there as well. It exists here too. It does. It's important to recognize that. We live in a university town. It's particularly bad here. If you live anywhere near one, it's bad in your area. And it's not going to be California, New York bad, but.
Yeah, no. But I was visiting with my dad a few weeks ago. We went to a Parks house, and there were a couple of trans folks there. Again, I don't hate them. I'm not mad at them. But to think, I live in a deep red place, this isn't going to affect me. Yeah, it affected people that worked at the Parks house. Come on.
Yeah. So, Boston Children's Hospital should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, this is
absolutely.
I mean, and and there's a problem with the children. There's a problem with the parents, but these doctors, it's a different problem entirely. It's in vogue to be queer right now in any sense of the word, and that is sort of the explanation for the kids and for the parents that allow this sort of thing. But these doctors, they are ghouls. These are mad scientists that are looking at each of our kids, like each of our sons and each of our daughters, with a dollar value. Because this is catching on so quickly, and
it's inexcusable.
Yeah, it's horrible,
criminal. It's criminal, and I hope that the steps will be taken to make that criminal, because these are kids, these are minors. Don't. No.
Yeah.
Leave them alone. All right, so, you want to go on to the next news story?
Yeah, tell me about Jackson.
So, Mississippi's in the headlines. Doesn't happen very often. Jackson, Mississippi is in the headlines for not having drinking water for a couple of weeks. We've had some pretty bad rains in central Mississippi, and this caused the Pearl River to kind of get out of sorts. It wasn't even the Mississippi River. It caused the Pearl River to get out of sorts. Caused flooding down in central Mississippi in what we call the metro area. And it killed all the water pressure, killed all the drinking water in Jackson. And this is not new. Like, Jackson's water is messed up all the time, every year at least. I mean, they have an issue with the water every year. They had to shut down the schools because they didn't have water. And immediately I got on Twitter when this became a national story, and all I saw was, well, the governor. Basic civics here, my friends. The governor is responsible for a state. The mayor is responsible for the city.
Yeah. City government and
you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, city government and state government are entirely separate. It's important to recognize in this situation. I'm like, let's sort of get this out of the way. I'm not a huge fan of our state governor. I think he's a typical Republican, and I don't love typical Republicans. I feel that they're wishy-washy, but this is not on him. Mostly because this problem precedes him by a decade or so.
A long time.
Yeah, I used to work in the Jackson area. Boil water notices are a regular occurrence. They shut down entire industries, and like downtown Jackson, it regularly shuts down. Like, you can't go to a restaurant if a boil water notice is in effect. And a lot of people deem that it's too dangerous to run like just general facilities, so they just send people home. This is a state capital.
Yeah, the infrastructure downtown's awful. We have friends that work down in the Jackson area that work downtown Jackson, because that's where a lot of our state buildings are. And they talk about how, now that we work from home, it's not uncommon for us to work from home 2 or 3 days a week because our building is not inhabitable. Right. Because of the various infrastructure issues they've had going on. In this particular issue, Fox News reported that the FEMA administrator said it is not okay for the residents of Jackson, Mississippi. And so our focus needs to be on what is it that we need to do today and in the coming days to make sure that when we get safe drinking water back, but that we make sure that this does not happen again. Now, an hour ago, the governor posted on Twitter that the water pressure had been restored, that the city water tanks were full, and that no tanks were reading low. But again, it's not his responsibility. I'm not a big fan of Tate Reeves. The way our governors worked in Mississippi for the past several administrations is whoever's lieutenant governor ends up becoming governor, and they just cycle through that way. And I'm not a big fan of him. I didn't vote for him.
Right.
But it's not his problem. It's the mayor of Jackson's problem. the infrastructure in Jackson's 100 years old. This happens every single year. And now we're starting to see reports in various newspapers that are saying that this is a form of systemic racism against Jackson because Jackson is mostly African American.
Right.
Look at who's been running the city offices.
Yeah. So what I found is that a lot of people compare this to what happened in Flint, Michigan, which was an EPA disaster. Sure. And this isn't really at the foot of the EPA in Jackson's situation, but they tie both to supposed racism at work in the government. I'm not really certain what we're supposed to infer from that, and like are we suggesting that the government is trying to just not provide basic service, utilities to Black communities? This is according to the Bolivar Bullet, our local web paper. Andre M. Perry, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution Metropolitan Policy Program. I have no idea what that is. But I think he has a lot to do with Flint. It says it's shameful. There is no question in my mind that if Jackson was 70% white, there would be a greater investment in water infrastructure. I don't know, again, who Andre Perry is. I doubt he's a local. No. We looked into this. Jackson, Mississippi has been a Democrat hub for
70 years?
At least 7 decades.
Yeah, we went and looked at all the mayors, and they have all been Democrats since 1949.
We went further back than that, and we couldn't find party affiliation. So Jackson's always been Democracy. Since it has been a predominantly Black-run city for the past 25 years.
Yeah.
The first Black mayor of Jackson was elected in 1997, and every head of the administration in Jackson, Mississippi since then has been a Black male.
Which is great. I mean, the city is 70% Black, and they have an African American representing them. They're promoting them to that office. Now get to work and fix the water.
Right.
It's that simple. Invest in the infrastructure.
Is the argument that the Black administration is not doing what is best for the Black community? Because
if you call it racism, then yeah. If you call it poor investment in infrastructure, no.
It is not up to the state, the citizens of the state, to pay for Jackson's poor decision making.
Yeah, just like it isn't up to the citizens of the state to do that for Meridian or Vicksburg or Hattiesburg or Starkville or Oxford or South Haven, right? It's up.
Man, those are a lot of cities you're naming that people who don't live in Mississippi aren't going to recognize.
Good for them. Go Google it.
Of course, it's not racism. This is just there. This is the well that they go to. No pun intended. This is the well that they go to whenever there is a problem, and it just happens to affect Black people disproportionately.
Well, what you're clearly missing, Jeff, is that this is climate caused. This is climate change issue, and that this is climate racism. You're clearly forgetting that point.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I hate the environment
because we haven't had flooding in Mississippi forever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
We have the Mississippi River right to our west.
Yeah. The Mississippi River is an hour drive away from Jackson. Flooding happens.
It's common.
It's the
third
largest river in the world. Flooding happens.
And to say that it's just it's caused by climate. Well, it's been happening for decades and decades and decades. It's always flooded in this area. Flash flood warnings are a common occurrence. Fix the infrastructure. It's not the climate, it's the infrastructure.
We live in the heaviest flood area in the state. Well, it's bad. So
It is what it is. But I'm surprised that it became a national issue. I have a feeling, now this is just anecdotally, I have a feeling it became a national issue because people started putting the term racism on it when it has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with poor investment into infrastructure.
Right. So it became a national issue when Joe Biden declared it an emergency, meriting the response from FEMA. Now Tate Reeves declared it a state emergency a couple days prior to that, and then the White House followed up. And that's fine if you've got people like in a situation like Flint, Michigan. First of all, that was caused by a federal agency. But yeah, if people need help, get them help. Hurricane Katrina was, you could argue, none of the federal government's business. But natural disasters happen. People need help. Sometimes the state can't provide that help. Declare an emergency at the federal level. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think we rely on the federal government too much for everything. But I think that's because the federal government is so overreaching. But that's a long-term problem. Right now, federal government is the one that has the money and the resources.
Which, hey, that's a great segue into our next segment.
Oh Lord. All right, so I don't know who told. I heard, and this is just hearsay, I heard that this was his idea. Like, I don't think he makes a lot of decisions, but I think like one of his grandkids told him that people liked the dark Biden thing. And then he's like, yeah, let's roll with it. People love an anti-hero. So, all right, we're going to look at this image first.
So I just want to, we've talked about this, and whenever, months ago they were talking about forgiving student loans, I told you that he was going to make the worst possible decision because you could always count on him to make the worst possible decision. So I have no problem believing that he absolutely made this decision. Like you said, we don't know. I don't have a problem believing it.
Like, look at this visual. It is so bad. It is so. He looks like a Sith Lord.
He does. He flat out looks like Sith Lord.
He looks exactly like Emperor Palpatine. Like I that's what I need. I need to see the mashups between. Yeah. I need to see the mashups between this and Emperor Palpatine's speech. But like so if you look at the actual wide shot, it's red in the middle and it's blue on both sides. So like,
but you don't get that on the zoom in, yeah.
But none of the news teams zoomed out far enough to show the blue. This looks just like I call him a communist, and he's not trying to disprove me. So
yeah, I was talking to Dad this weekend about it, and I was telling him, I was like, so I asked him if he saw it, knowing the answer, no, he hadn't seen it. And I said, Dad, I'm going to use a word that's overwrought, yet it absolutely applies here. It looks demonic. Just red and black, and he's face lit. He's lit up front. It looks demonic. Like, whoever thought this was a good optic, you really missed the boat, my friend.
Oh yeah, it's real bad. So here is our, I don't know, our czar in chief, maybe.
Czar, yeah. Sith Lord in chief.
We're gonna listen to the first 2 minutes of this. This is from the Washington Post. Give them credit for their video.
Equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans.
All right, I wanted to pause it there. So
Sure.
he's doing a very intentional, I think, and very specific oratory trick here. Like you notice, okay, well, they're not all bad. Most of them are good, but it's the ones that work with me that are good.
That's exactly what he's saying. Like, I've been able to work with the good ones. So now you have set up to anyone that you've worked with is a good one, and anyone who disagrees with you is a bad
one. And we all know, like, if Republicans are working with Democrats, it's not to the benefit of Republicans.
No,
like Republicans don't get anything out of those deals. Those are the Republicans that have been over for everything, and Democrats are getting their way 100%. So
now what amazes me is he's attacking the MAGA Republicans, and he's calling MAGA Republicans extreme, and he's clearly drawing a line here that he tried to walk back later. But the thing that amazes me is when it came to Antifa, he and the DOJ and everybody that works for him said, well, Antifa, hold up now, that's not an organization, that's an ideology. Well, what does MAGA stand for?
That's a good point.
Make America great again.
Yeah.
Isn't it simply just an ideology of conservatives who want to bring America back to the greatness that it used to have?
Yeah, and let's speak to the fact that he's bringing up Trump at all. That this is what they need. They need Trump to be brought up as often as possible. I'm of the opinion that we need to stop talking about Trump, because while a lot of people listening and a lot of people in this state may love Donald Trump, it's not a winning message. And no. I think we've noticed that.
Our politics is extremely polarized right now. And so if you want to win an election, make the election a referendum on your opponent. And every time they bring up Trump, that's what they're trying to do. You know, Trump's not in office. He hadn't been in office for 2 years. You know, Republicans are not leading the House. They're not leading the Senate. It is, for all intents and purposes, a Democrat-run country right now. Yeah. Stands the Supreme Court.
That's another issue. Like, he's at a 38% approval rating. You control all three legislative and executive movers in the country. Your team does. If you are unpopular, it is because of you.
Yeah.
And it's not because Republicans won't work with you. I say control. They're half and half in the Senate with
Kamala. with the tie breaking with Kamala being the tiebreaker, sure.
Right.
But they still have a 51-50 majority, which fortunately in the Senate doesn't mean anything outside of the 3 times that they can use budget reconciliation. So I mean, our checks and balances. As a young person, I got so mad at our government. Like, it moves too slow. Nothing ever happens. You know, the act of Congress is a phrase we use for things that don't ever get accomplished. The older I get, the more I realize, hey, gridlock is a pretty good thing sometimes.
Yeah, it's by design.
Sure.
It is a feature, not a bug, that your federal government doesn't do anything because they don't have enough votes for everything.
Yeah. But going back to the speech here, you know, he's castigating MAGA Republicans. You know, these MAGA Republicans are extreme. What's so extreme about Make America Great Again?
Yeah. Well, they're extreme because they voted for Trump. And Trump is extreme.
And look, Trump had an extreme personality. There's no doubt about that. But look at his policies. Look at actually what he accomplished from the office of the president. It was mainstream conservatism. And that's why I didn't vote for him first time around, because I didn't think he was going to be mainstream conservative. I didn't think that he was going to toe the party line. I thought he was going to be way more moderate. And he got in office, and he was just a normal conservative in office.
Right. You and I had the same deal on this. We voted for him in 2020, but not 2016. For that reason, I thought he was going to be a New York Democrat.
Sure.
Like, that's because that's what he was all his life.
Sure.
And I mean, at the end of the day, Trump doesn't really care about policy. Mm-hmm. He kind of passed that off to people who knew what they were doing. Mm-hmm. In most cases. So,
But he's got to run against Trump.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear Trump as much as possible because they think that's a winning message. If I can bring up Trump, I can win. And you know what? I have to agree with them. I wish Trump had not done that rally in Pennsylvania the couple days after this. I really do. I wish he would wait till midterms. Look, if you're going to run in 2024, that's your business. You can run in 2024. Best of luck. Godspeed. Keep your mouth shut till after November.
Right, because you're going to ruin the midterms in the meantime.
And if you don't believe me, look at Georgia.
Yeah.
He ruined the Georgia Senate elections. The special elections they had there. He ruined them. So keep your mouth shut till after November.
Told people not to show up. So they have to make it about Trump because it's all they got. They don't. Sure. They talk about what's going on in the country, what's actually going on in the country right now, because Trump's not going on in the country. Trump's holding rallies. Trump's yelling into the ether because he can't get on Twitter. Trump is bitter, and they want to bring him up as much as possible. Like that, honestly, there's somebody in the White House right now talking to Twitter's board, trying to get Trump back on Twitter. I guarantee it. Because
I've never thought about it, but I 100% agree with you. 100%.
They have to have him because they have to have somebody to fight against. Because if they try to fight against what what we're actually fighting, what we are fighting against, if they try to go after us for going against all of their racist nonsense in the schools, all their gender nonsense in the hospitals, all of their just radical agendas everywhere.
Sure.
Then his numbers are going to keep cratering.
Sure.
And so they have to bring up Trump. They can't let him go.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's play the last minute of this.
We're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. We are not powerless in the face of these threats. We are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on democracy. This is a nation that respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it. Blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy.
All right, okay. All
right, it's projection. It's so 100% projection. Now, before we move on to talking about what he was saying.
We need to talk.
You and I were a part of a fraternity in college, in which we would go to nursing homes and we would sing in the nursing homes. Looking at him speak, it is like looking in the face of the people that we would go and sing to, and they would just talk to you about anything and everything. I had seen people that feeble. My mom worked in a nursing home for many years. I used to go to nursing homes all the time. He looks bad, and I truly feel for him.
He does look bad. I do not feel for him.
I know you.
Joe
Biden.
Don't
have a heart.
Joe Biden has been a turd his entire life.
Okay, credit where credit is due.
This right here, this is the one thing he has wanted since he took office in the Senate.
Since before you and I were born? since the 80s, and he was running for president.
And he got into the Senate before legally you're allowed to.
Yeah.
Like he was elected to Senate at 34. It's not 34. It's, I don't know. It was like right before his birthday where he was eligible.
Mm-hmm.
So he has been a senator forever. And like
he's standing in front of Liberty Hall, where he was when they signed all the documents.
Yeah, I do not feel for Joe Biden. Joe Biden has
I do. I feel for him because I know his strings are being pulled. There's no way. Like, and the other thing I want to bring up before we talk about what he said was that's the first time I've listened to him in real time. So when I listen to things, when I take in media, it's usually at 1.25 or 1.5, depending on the media that I'm taking in. And he sounds normal at 1.5. And that's the first time that I've actually listened to him at a normal speed, and I was like, wow, he's losing.
It's pathetic, it's pitiful, but I like he has been like just an awful person in politics. Like this is what power will do to you, and
Sure.
this is what
Emperor Palpatine. This is what power does to you.
This is literally what happened to Emperor Palpatine in those horrible prequel movies. So the content of it is just projection all the way down. He talking about how we believe in free and fair elections, and you can't.
It's like, did you miss where we spent tens of millions of dollars in 3 years talking about whether Donald Trump was actually the president of the United States? Tens of millions of my dollars.
Bush Gore. Anybody?
Bush Gore, yeah, exactly.
Like, this is, it's always, and he goes on later in the video to say you can't only love your country when you win.
Oh, look at the polls when a Republican's in charge.
Are you kidding me? Like,
I'm proud to be American today just as much as I was 4 years ago. Like, I'm very proud of America, but dang, man. Come on.
And this plays to his base. And it plays to squishy Republicans. Yes. Because for too long, the Republican Party has been the party of, well, we're going to win, but we're going to win the right way. Yeah. And he's talking about how we want to put power into the hands of partisans who are going to do this and do that. Yeah, you're right. I do. I want the most partisan person who's going to use their power to be in power.
Because that's the way I felt whenever they were talking about putting Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court and then the Supreme Court nominations during Trump's time. They have been working for decades for this. Yes, we have. Thank you for realizing that our hard work has paid off.
I wish Brett Kavanaugh was half as radical as they were afraid he was.
Oh, for real. And all the lies that they said. Yeah, just be happy. Yeah. I wish he was half as radical as the person they just put on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I'm tired of losing the right way.
Yeah.
Politics is not, this is not honorable. This is dirty. It's politics. So we need to start winning. I didn't get sick of winning. Donald Trump promised me I was going to get sick of winning. And
didn't get tired of it. Not once. I was never sick of winning. I like to win. Winning's fun. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was pure projection the whole way down. Everything he said, just put a mirror up, man. Just put a mirror up.
So, well, we do have some fun things to do at the show today. One of the segments that we want to propose to everyone is make shame great again.
Yes.
Steve and I are very religious, and we believe we live in a society without shame. So we think shame should be made great again. And today, the people that we want to shame is really the federal administration, but also anyone in support of the decision by the Biden administration to forgive student loans for anyone who owes federal loans.
Full disclosure, you and I both own federal loans. We both have advanced degrees in our respective fields. Like we went to school, we enjoyed good educations, we took out loans to get some of that education. I wholly expected to pay my loan back. Like, I took out a loan. I paid my loan back. Like that was the expectation up till now. And had they done this the right way, I would have been upset, but I wouldn't have been nearly as upset. Like if they had gotten congressional approval, if this had been a bill and this is something that our legislators decided on, I wouldn't have been as upset about it because Congress is the one that controls the purse. Like that's how our government is set up to function and work. I'm not okay with, depending on your estimation, $300 to $600 billion being spent with the stroke of a pen. No one person should have that power. It's ridiculous.
And I mean, it's wrong regardless. Let's say it went through.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be as upset about it if it went through the process that was set up by our Constitution. I would disagree with it. I would be frustrated. But I wouldn't be mad like I am about it now.
Your loans cannot be forgiven.
No, somebody is paying.
Yeah. That loan is just simply transferred from one party to another. And yeah, you're right. I have student loans. Haven't you paid off all yours or no?
No, I still have some from my master's degree.
If Joe Biden decides to give me $10,000 to pay off a portion of my loans, I'm going to take it.
Sure.
Because I would be stupid not to.
Why would I handicap myself when everybody else can just do it? I will be upfront about that, right?
Yeah.
I think it's stupid. I think it's a bad decision. I think it goes against our constitutional system. But if everybody else is going to do it, I'm not going to handicap myself.
It's an incredibly bad idea. I didn't think Donald Trump needed to give out COVID money, but I still took
it. Right. And we went to Disney World as a family. But the thing about this is, what are you teaching the next generation? The reason this is shameful, and the reason this is in our shame session, is what are you teaching the next generation, and what are you incentivizing? Kids we know, I call them kids, they're in college, but they're still kids. Kids we know were telling me, oh, well, it's no big deal because it's forgiven. But no, that's not how it works. Well, I'm not going to have to pay for it anymore, so it's forgiven. And that's when I had to go back to the old tried and true. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Right.
Someone is paying for it. You're either going to pay for it now yourself, or you're going to pay for it through inflation. Inflation is going to happen because it is the worst possible decision that an administration can make. And when the months leading up to this, you and I were talking about it, right?
Right.
Is he going to forgive all of it? Is he going to forgive none of it? And I told you I was settled on the fact that he was going to forgive $10,000 for it, because that is the worst possible decision he could make. It's not enough to make the liberals happy, and it's something, so it's going to make the conservatives mad. Like he's going to piss off both sides if he forgives $10,000. Now, clearly, I was wrong. He forgave $10,000 for everyone's student loan, $20,000 for those who had Pell Grant. Although all the details about how much Pell Grant you had to get and all that hasn't come out. Some people, they had Pell Grant for 1 year they were in college, and all the other years they didn't. Is that $20,000 for them? Like, all those details haven't been released. But the reason it's shameful is what lesson? What is the lesson that you are telling people?
It's ridiculous. So I mean
that you get in over your head, so we're going to bail you out. And let's talk about some of the comparisons that are being made, right? Well, they bailed out the auto industries, Jeff. They bailed out the banks. They bailed out the housing market. Why can't they bail out the American people, Jeff?
Because it needs to stop somewhere.
Because bailouts are wrong.
Those shouldn't have happened.
Bailouts are wrong.
Okay.
There's no such thing as too big to fail.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, GM. I realize you had to have that money during the crisis in 2008. I think you should have failed. I'm sorry, Reno.
Anyway.
Bailouts are wrong, and so it's wrong all the way around. It goes against our constitutional system of government, and I do think it'll be challenged in the courts. But we were talking about this earlier. I think if Republicans are smart, they'll wait till after midterms, because going back to politics and going back to
they're going to be real afraid to be seen taking money away from people with student loans, because now that it's been promised, it's seen as money in the pocket.
I know people who are already talking about, well, this is what I'm going to spend on that $250 a month or whatever they were spending towards their loans. And Kareem, White House Karen, which we'll get to in a second, has no answer to this. She's been asked about it, and she's like, well, because this has been paused for 2 years, it's really put a strain on people. Well, why has it been paused for 2 years? I understand going back to 2 weeks to slow the spread. I get it. We didn't know what was going on. The federal government had to compensate us for not letting us go to work. There's some Fifth Amendment arguments going on there. I understand that. Why did we wait 2 years to restart payments?
I took advantage of it.
Yeah, a lot of people did, and a lot of other people paid off their loans during that time. And apparently, there's going to be
that's the better idea, because there's no interest occurring right now. But kids, pay your bills. If you can't afford to go to college, don't go to college.
Yeah, if you can't afford, you don't have to go to college. That's the biggest lie that's been sold. Now, this is coming from somebody who's working on a terminal degree right now, right? You don't have to go to college to be successful. And we have lied to not just one, but several generations of kids and told them, if you want to be anything in this world, you got to go to college. That's not true. or you're nothing, or you're a nobody if you don't go to college. I have family members that make way more money than I do, and they never went to college.
Definitely don't borrow to go to college. It's a Ponzi scheme.
Don't borrow to go to college. Exactly, it's a Ponzi scheme. Going back to big bailouts.
So yeah, you mentioned, as you like to lovingly call her, White House Karen.
White House Karen. Yeah.
Karine Jean-Pierre. For those of you who don't know, because you spend your time doing much more valuable things, Karine Jean-Pierre is the press secretary for the Biden administration. Yeah. And we've had a number of press secretaries over the years. I think it's a position that shouldn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, we got Twitter now. Don't worry about it.
It's a dumb job.
We'll talk about it on Twitter.
And it's a horrible job. Let's be honest. I would hate to.
I wouldn't want it. No.
But I think our friend Karine is special in this position. She's just got something that no one else has, and we're gonna we had many clips to sift through from this week. We're gonna watch our favorite of Karine right now.
As you know, the good news is in August, the economy created 315,000 jobs, which is important. We have created nearly 10,000 million jobs since President Biden took office, which is the fastest job growth in history. So you're asking me, where's the success? Here it is. Wait, let me finish. Wait, hold on. So,
the poor guy's just trying to correct her, be like, hey, I don't think 10,000 million is the number.
10,000 million?
10,000 million. But okay, first let's start with the content of what she's talking about. She's bragging about adding jobs and having historic job growth. Well, how many presidents have taken over during the middle of the pandemic when we wouldn't let people go to work? Right? That was historic as well. And I don't know what the unemployment rate is currently. I probably should have Googled that, but I don't think it's before the pandemic. You know, we were promised under Obama that, 2% unemployment, that's never going to happen again. Lo and behold, it happened again. We find is when you have good policy, people want to work.
We've had historic job growth. We shut down a multi-trillion-dollar economy 2 years ago.
Right.
We shut it down. People went home, and a lot of those people have stayed home. The job numbers are not nearly what they need to be. If you go outside to any fast food restaurant in this town, each one of them has up on their billboard, paid daily. Do you know why?
Because they can't
find people to work. If you show up, you get paid that day. That is a nightmare from an administrative standpoint.
I would not work in HR.
But they have to do it.
Yeah, they have to. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
and it's ridiculous the way the job market and what amazes me is about the bragging that's gone up to this point. You know, they have missed the mark on job creation month after month after month after month. We are now in a recession. The next job numbers come out, I'm willing to bet we'll still be in a recession, right? And yet they're going to sit here and brag about the job numbers. We're in a recession, people. We are having record inflation that my generation's never seen. Like we've never had inflation like this, even back when we were having the Great Recession in 2008. Like we've never seen this like this. We're not far from the 1970 gas lines here. Like it is bad, and you're going to brag about these numbers. So that's the content of what she's talking about. You have no reason to talk about these numbers. These numbers are not good. Okay,
but our friend White House Karen Jean-Pierre. She's not very smart. She's a diversity hire. After Jen Psaki left the Biden administration, they were very proud to hire a black lesbian for this frankly horrendous position.
And they were so proud about it. That's the first thing she talked about from the podium.
Yeah, she's a black lesbian.
The first thing she talked about. I don't care what color you are. I don't care who you sleep with at night. Like that. That's your business. I care if you're good at your job. Talk about JP for a second, Jen Psaki. She was good at her job.
Yeah.
I mean, she infuriated me a lot.
Because she was a fundamentally dishonest person. Yeah.
But she could spin a story. I mean, she was a spin doctor with the best of them.
McEnany
that is her job. Yeah, machinating. I love it when she lets smack down on people. And well, is that Sarah Saunders? Sanders. She wasn't bad. She was not a bad
Sanders.
press secretary. I really enjoyed her.
Yeah.
It's a job that I would never want, but if I did have it, I would make sure that the content that I speak of is important. Yeah, if you're going to have a gap, a number that doesn't exist. She's also a little braggadocious about cut. Well, hold it. You didn't even realize
She's
you made a mistake, girl.
Yeah.
Million jobs since
She's
President
very caring.
Biden took office. Million jobs, 1,000 million jobs, 10,000 million jobs, nearly 10,000 million jobs since President Biden. Nearly 10,000 million jobs since President Biden took.
10,000 million. Those are good numbers.
That's a lot.
I'm
good
very
numbers.
impressed.
Yeah.
If it big if true.
Big if true.
Not true. So that's White House Karen. And you have any finishing thoughts for us?
No, I'm glad that we're doing this. I'm glad that we're getting together and just talking.
I think
we're
people
clearly,
need it.
People need it. One, they need to hear people who are always right, and so that's important. Two, they need to know what's important, and we're here to give them that stuff that's important. And like Jeff said earlier, we have a lot of things scheduled. We got a lot of things lined up. We have a lot of various different segments that we're wanting to do. This is just scratching the surface and a good test run and first episode for us to see how long that we banter about nonsense, because we're pretty good at that. You got anything you want to close with?
Nope, not it. I appreciate everybody who tuned in, and if you are listening later on Facebook, YouTube, or the podcastery, thank you so much. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter if you want to learn about sports, D2 Sports from Steven. He is at Okra Hug. If you want to learn about anything else from me, you can find me on Twitter at @court_Jeffster. You can find our channel on YouTube whenever we finally get full access to the YouTube streaming service. This will start going up on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook at Always Right with Jeff and Steven. If Steven doesn't have anything else, that'll be it for us. Thank you guys so much.
Be blessed.
Bye, guys.